How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 5. We're still following Shion as she pretends to be Mion, and in the last episode we were at some baseball practices to observe Satoshi and watch him just not do well and eventually skimp out and start to not show up to practice, which, that's not good. That's not necessarily good at all. And we ran into Rena at the end of the last episode, and I think we're walking back to Hinamizawa with her, which I don't think is good either. As she predicted, we were attacked by pouring rain on our way. We ended up taking shelter in a small shack in front of a bus stop.
すごい降りだけど、これはそんなに長引きそうじゃないね。向こうの空は明るいもの。そうだね。
I heard the sound of rain pattering on the rooftop and the raindrops jumping into puddles. It sounded loud, but it made me feel strangely calm. I zoned out for a moment, and then Rena talked to me while looking up at the rainy sky.
最近元気ないって聞いたから心配してたんだよ。
All of the baseball team members knew I was depressed because I hadn't seen Satoshi-kun recently. Most of them attended the school in Hinamizawa, so it wasn't surprising that she knew as well. I hadn't been able to contact Sis these past few weeks, but I was sure she had an idea of how I feel about Satoshi-kun and how I would feel if he didn't come to his baseball practice. Sis was probably pretending to act a little depressed during the day today in Hinamizawa to avoid creating a big gap between our moods. But neither of us knew the details about the other right now, so she wouldn't be able to answer if others asked her what was wrong. She'd only be able to say, "Leave me alone," and that might lead more people to become worried. Rena must have thought Mion was depressed. That must be why she came all the way to see me. She must have known what was going on because she knew that I was at the baseball field.
サトシ君、構ってくれないから寂しい?
Having deduced what had been going on with Satoshi-kun from what she just said, he'd been distancing himself from others lately because of exhaustion, and that's what it sounded like, at least.
サトコちゃんの件でだいぶ悩んでるみたいだった。サトシ君はすごく追い詰められてると思う。かわいそうだよね。
サトシ君は本当に妹思いだからね。偉いよ、本当に。
What I'd said sounded hollow, as I knew too well how much of a burden Sotoko had become.
でもだからってみーちゃんまで落ち込んじゃったらかえってサトシ君を追い詰めちゃうように思うかな。
私に追い詰めるつもりなんてないよ。
それはもちろん知ってるよ。でもだからこそ学校にいる時のサトシ君を笑顔で迎えてあげられなかったら、みーちゃんはたとえ嘘でも笑顔が作れる強い人間だって知ってる。だから嘘でも笑ってほしいの。
She is capable of this.
最初はたとえ嘘でもね。
Or at least Mion is.
笑顔って最後には本物になるんだよ。
What she was saying in a nutshell was this. Both Satoshi-kun and Sotoko were totally wiped out. If Mion was also depressed, even though she's the sort of person who usually lightens the mood, their situation would be stuck in a vicious cycle. Rena sounded like, or more like, she was trying to give me advice than trying to console me. She must have been more mature than she looks. Sis told me that she was a funny girl with a few bad habits, but she seemed to have another very mature side to her, and we've seen that
み
before.
ーちゃんはサトシ君のこと好き？
好き。
Though I shouldn't have told her that, I immediately responded.
なら笑おう。
Rena smiled herself.
みーちゃんの笑顔できっとサトシ君に元気を分けてあげられると思う。みーちゃんはそれしかできないことに落胆しかけているかもしれないけれど、それでもね、多分それが一番サトシ君の力になる。
Oh, if only it were that easy.
理屈ではわかるけどね。笑えったって そう簡単にはできないよ。
See, it's exactly as I said. Rena giggled and nodded.
野球の練習にもさ、バイトが終わったらきっと帰ってくるから。
His part-time job? I almost asked that question, but I managed to stop myself. From the tone of Rena's voice, it sounded like it was something everyone knew.
バイトか。いつ終わるんだろうね。
お金が貯まるまでだろうけど、どんなに遅くてもさとこちゃんの誕生日までには終わるよ。
Oh, here we go. It's all coming together now. I tried to figure out what was going on from what she said. I had to listen very carefully to uncover the whole picture. Satoshi-kun seemed to be working in order to make some money. I don't think it's easy to find a job when you're still in school. Sis might have had something to do with it. His job only seemed temporary, and it seemed to have something to do with Sotoko's birthday. It wasn't that difficult to figure out. Satoshi was working and saving up to buy his little sister something expensive for her birthday. He was trying to comfort her, even though he was so torn up himself. Sotoko again. Satoshi-kun was already worn out because of her, and he was now working for her sake, even though he was exhausted. How stupid. It would be easier for him to just forget about Sotoko. Oh, Jesus Christ. What? Why are we getting this stare? I was startled when I realized Rena was looking straight into my eyes. She was smiling, but her eyes looked creepy. I was not expecting that. I don't think anyone could have expected that. I never voiced what I was thinking, but she was looking at me as though she figured out that I was blaming Sotoko. She beamed when she noticed my fear. She smiled as though she understood that I thought that way because of love. She was giving me the creeps. I could hear thunder roar in the distance. The rain began to pick up.
さとこちゃんがサトシくんを独占してることに嫉妬を感じてる？
Holy shit, that's exactly what we're thinking. That is like word for word. I avoided answering immediately this time, but Rena seemed to know what I was thinking already.
別にみーちゃんがそう思っても私は軽蔑しないよ。人を一途に好きになるときってそういうものだもん。
Is it?
ありがとう。
Is it really?
でもみーちゃんは今までずっとさとこちゃんを励ましてくれてたよね。それって私すごく立派なことだと思うな。
さとこは仲間だもの。当然でしょ。
I sounded so fake. I felt like spitting on the floor.
私たちにはさとこちゃんもさとしくんもどうやったらこの苦境から救ってあげられるのかわからない。
さとこがさとしくんにべったりしすぎなんだよ。さとこがもっとしっかりすればさとしくんがここまで追い詰められることはない。
はっきり言うね。
Rena nodded with an unflinching smile, even though my remarks could be taken as harsh. What was this mysterious girl thinking? It was difficult to get a read on her.
さとしくんもさ、ほんの少しはそう思っているとこあるかもしれないね。
え？
Rena kept smiling, but her smile looked strangely cold.
さとしくんも多分心のどこかでさとこちゃんをかばい続けることに疲れを感じてると思う。
Yeah, that kind of connects with the whole possibility of him not exactly disappearing due to the curse, but running away. Taking all the money that he's earned up from this job, it seems, and just running away. But I feel like that's way too far-fetched. Given the type of person Rena is, I don't think she'd say something if she wasn't certain of it. Because of that, she must have been confident in what she just told me.
どうしてそう思う？
私、さとしくんに打ち明けられたから。
Satoshi-kun secretly confessed to her. Rena asked me to keep it that way.
さとしくんがね、兄として頼られることに苦痛を感じる。それはとても罪深いことだと知っているけど。ってね。
I don't think he would say something like that. But however, it wasn't likely that Rena was lying. I just met her, so I didn't know what made me feel that way. But my hunch told me that she was telling the truth. I heaved a huge sigh. Satoshi-kun must have gotten so tired that he couldn't help telling someone. Even so, even if he thought that way, he wouldn't tell somebody so easily. Maybe Rena led him to do so. She might be capable of something like that. I don't understand this girl. It had only been a little while since we'd met, but I'd already started talking about something I was keeping deep inside of me. Does she have some kind of supernatural power to reach into people's minds and drag out what they're thinking? It suddenly hit me that I was sitting with this creepy girl in a tiny shack. I've been dragged into her strange world. I don't think Sis has realized Rena's real personality. She thinks Rena is just a funny girl with some strange habits. She would have told me if she knew.
レナはサトシ君に打ち明けられるくらいに信頼されてるんだね。羨ましい。
別に信頼されてるわけじゃない。私が経験者だからだと思う。
Oh?
経験？レナにも兄弟をかばったりした経験が？
ひたひたとずっと足音がついてきて。
Oh?
夜は枕元にまで立たれて見下ろされる経験。
Huh? Sorry, Brenna. What are you talking about? I turned around to face her and got the chills. Don't give me those eyes. Though she was smiling, her eyes looked ice cold. I trembled and froze with my eyes open.
みーちゃんにはない？ないと思う。多分。
Rena kept laughing derisively? Let's go with that. I tried to figure out what she was
み
saying.
ーちゃんはひなみ沢から逃げ出そうとか、もっと都会に行きたいなとか、そういうことを考えたことはある？
I didn't know how to respond. Rena waited for my answer, urging me to speak with her silence.
ないよ。私は地元好きだし。
だよね。だよ、みーちゃんはそうだと思う。
Why are we going into delirious mode? It didn't seem like a good idea to lie to her. Rena has some kind of power I can't grasp. She can read people's minds just by seeing the slightest change in their expressions, so I had to tell her the truth.
そうならば、みーちゃんは大丈夫。お社様には怒られない。
お社様？
Oyashiro-sama. That's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. I couldn't understand why she mentioned that name. My mind stopped for a moment.
お社様。
She calmly repeated the name as if trying to teach me something. Yeah, I remember. Oyashiro-sama never allows heathens to desecrate Hinamizawa. Oyashiro-sama never allows the villagers to leave either. Those are the rules. Slowly, I recalled the fear of the curse which supposedly caused the dismemberment murder and the death of the Hojo couple. When I was sent to the institution, I had this fear. I was scared that if I went to that faraway boarding school, I'd fall under the curse. But I should be okay. I escaped from the school and returned to my hometown, to Okinomiya to be precise. But it should be okay according to the kids' rules, because I love Hinamizawa. The hag forces me to live this suffocating life, but I still chose to stay in this place. I don't believe I'm breaking Oyashiro-sama's rules. Even though the Sonozaki family had selfishly banished me to a remote place, I came back here anyway. Oyashiro-sama could even bless me for that. I guess I'm trying to convince myself that the curse doesn't apply to me. But I think I'm still afraid of it.
私は地元好きだから、その意味ではお社様のたたりがあるとは思っちゃいないね。模範的だとすら思ってるけど。
それは私も認める。だからこそ、サトシ君のことはわかんない。
Oh.
どうして？
サトシ君は心のどこかでひなみ沢を捨ててどこかへ逃げ出したいと思ってるから。
Huh? I gave an inaudible cry. While I was feeling sad that Satoshi-kun hadn't shown up for practice, he still lived in Hinamizawa. So I'd never even considered the thought of him going away.
サトシ君が家出したがってるってこと？
無意識のうちに。お社様が枕元に立つまでは多分意識すらしてなかったと思う。
Oh, he had the whole footstep thing going on. I still had no idea what she was talking about. I continued trying to figure out what she was saying.
サトシ君が体験していることはすべてお社様のたたりの前触れなの。誰かが遠くからじっと伺っている。誰かがずっとつけてくる。それらは初めのうちはお外でだけだけど。
You know, this happened in chapter 1, and this happened in chapter 3. It did not happen in chapter 2. And with chapter 1, Keiichi lost his fucking mind and we don't really know what the hell happened. Or at least I don't. Chapter 3, it's just as if, like, we didn't do anything unnecessarily bad, you know, except murder. And that might have been bad enough in Oyashiro-sama's standards. It's like another rule.
やがて後ろのそれは自分の家の中にまでついてくるようになる。そしてお布団に入って明かりを消してもずっと枕元から見下ろしてるの。ただただ黙ってじっと自らの罪を認めるまで。サトシ君は夢見が悪いって最初言い出したの。それで私がどんな夢と聞いたら、私の時をなぞるようだった。だから私、彼に予告したの。その気配がやがて近づき、足音を聞かせるようになり、常にサトシ君を見下ろしているようになったなら、それはきっと私の時と同じだから相談してって。サトシ君ははじめ私のことを怪訝に思ったと思う。でも私が予告した通りにお社様の気配が近づくのを感じ、お社様が枕元にまで立つに至って、やっと自分の身に起こってることを相談できるのは私しかいないって気づいたの。
Rena didn't look like she was joking. She just calmly told me what had been going on. I couldn't even move. I couldn't tell if her words were a joke or the truth. I could only feel stunned.
私はね、もともとひなみ沢に住んでいたの。小学校に上がる直前にここから引っ越した。でも新しい環境に馴染めなくてね、心の中のお社様にひなみ沢に帰れ帰れって何度も呼びかけられてた。でも小学生の子が泣きながら元の町に帰りたいって言ったってどうにもならないもんね。私は現実とお社様の声に板挟みにされてずっと過ごすことになる。そして
Rena paused. It looked like she didn't want to go into the details of what followed. In general, she confused me even more.
結局いろいろあって私はひなみ沢に帰ってくることができた。
I mean, we know, like us, the viewer, or reader, or whatever, we know what happened. She started being, well, probably delusional, but also acting like a delinquent, causing problems and what have you.
だからお社様にはそれで許してもらえた。あれ以来お社様の気配を感じることはないもの。でもね、サトシ君は私と違ってひなみ沢にいながらお社様のたたりを受けることになった。それはなぜか。理由は一つ。サトシ君はひなみ沢にはいたけれども、ひなみ沢を捨てて遠くに逃げたがっていたから。その心をお社様は許さなかったんだね。サトシ君は自問自答を何度も繰り返した挙句に、ほらサトシ君アルバイトをしてるでしょ。サトコちゃんが欲しがったあの大きなぬいぐるみは10万円くらいするもんね。
A near $1,000 teddy bear.
サトシ君はサトコちゃんの誕生日までにその額を稼ごうとしている。でもほら考えてみて、それだけのお金があったら後先を考えなくていいならどこか遠くへ逃げ出す十分な費用になりうるんだよ。
Yeah, it would help.
サトシ君は無意識のうちにね、そのサトコちゃんを捨ててどこか遠くへ逃げ出すお金に使ってしまいたいって思う。それはサトシ君にとってはこの上なく罪深いこと。でもさっきみーちゃんが指摘したように、 さとこちゃんの存在自体がサトシくんの負担になってるのは事実。サトシくんだってバカじゃないもん。兄として認めたくなかっただけで、さとこちゃんが負担になっていることにはちゃんと気づいていた。だからサトシくんは葛藤してるんだよ。自分は妹を喜ばせるためのお金を貯めるためにバイトをしているつもりだけれども、それは自分の心を騙しているだけで、本当は自分が逃げ出すためのお金を作るためにバイトしてるんじゃないかって。私は逃げ出すべきじゃないと思う。逃げ出したってサトシ君は多分一生後悔する。お社様だってそれを分かってるからサトシ君にこうして警告してくれているの。サトシ君の心にサトコちゃんを見捨てるなんて悪魔のささやきが早く聞こえなくなるといいんだけども。サトシ君は綿流しの数日後だっけのサトコちゃんの誕生日にプレゼントを間に合わせるため、
Yeah.
今いろいろなアルバイトに精を出してる。
And that fits with when he disappears.
心も体も追い詰めてる。そんな苦境がきっとサトコちゃんの誕生日を境に終わるんだって信じて。サトシ君は今もお社様のたたりに苛まれている。サトコちゃんを守るか見捨てるかの天秤の狭間に立たされながらね。
The torrential rain didn't seem to want to stop. It kept pouring down on the galvanized iron roof, producing a loud noise. Yet in the shack, it fell completely silent. What the hell was Rena talking about? I couldn't grasp even half of what she was saying. The only thing I had figured out is that Satoshi-kun was struggling, confused, and in lots of pain. He's suffering from Oyashiro-sama's curse? And Rena has experienced that before? Yeah, we're really getting into the thick of it now, aren't we, Shion? The Watanagashi Festival was right around the corner. Oh yeah. Oyashiro-sama's curse had struck 3 years in a row. There was no guarantee that it wouldn't strike a fourth time. Satoshi-kun was subject to Oyashiro-sama's curse, even now. Was he going to skip town? Was he going to be the next victim of Oyashiro-sama's curse? Either way, he might disappear forever. Could I do something to prevent it? If I didn't do anything, it would all come to a hopeless end. End? I started feeling a sense of dread. I didn't buy the crazy story Rena told me, but if something really was happening to Satoshi-kun, which might bring about some kind of an end, I couldn't help feeling scared. It's true, isn't it? My instinct is always correct. I know mine isn't. I decided to contact Mion despite the danger. Mion got upset at first, but she had to listen to me.
お姉、サトシ君のことだけど、どういうことになってるの？
最近、だいぶ険しい様子なんだよ。うかつに声もかけられない雰囲気。
何それ？声をかけられないから、サトシ君がどういう状況になってるかよく分かってないってこと？
ごめん。
お姉、キンキンにまた入れ替わる機会を設けてほしいの。
うん、それはもちろん構わないよ。でも最近はちょっと綿流しのお祭りの打ち合わせの絡みで日程の調整が難しいんだよ。何？またバイト？
私、Hinamizawaの学校へ行く。
Oh? Are we going to go undercover? As Mion in school? This is truly the slice of life content that I live for when it comes to this. And I mean that too. Like, this is technically the slice of life content, right? You have more of the notebook pages. And we got possessed with a bus stop sign as our achievement. Let us view the tips. We'll start with page 21. Why don't I relate my encounter with that creepy girl in the rain? Her name is Rena Ryugu. Her real first name is Rena, or however you pronounce it. I have no idea what kind of girl she really is. One thing is certain, she has no relation to the Sonozaki family. She has no relation to the three families as a whole either. The Ryugu family used to live in Hinamizawa. but then they moved back to Ibaraki. That was before she went to elementary school, and they returned to Hinamizawa some years later. Rena Ryugu said that she came back because Oyashiro-sama told her to. I don't know what that means. She said it was the curse of Oyashiro-sama, that Oyashiro-sama had stalked her. I think that was probably a hallucination, but Satoshi-kun had been interested in that experience. She said that Satoshi-kun was also experiencing Oyashiro-sama's curse. Satoshi-kun told her that he was being followed by some unknown existence. He was surprised to learn that Rena had the same experience before. What is Oyashiro-sama's curse? Why did Rena and Satoshi-kun have a similar experience? I believe that means that somebody put them under surveillance, Somebody must be spying on the next victim of the curse. Since Rena and Satoshi-kun both blindly believed in Oyashiro-sama's curse, they interpreted it as Oyashiro-sama's presence. If paranoia kicked in, they'd feel as if they were experiencing paranormal phenomena. Judging from what Rena said, it seems that Satoshi-kun had been put on surveillance since long before Watanagashi. So, one question comes to mind. Why were they watching Rena? I'm assuming that this surveillance was placed on a victim-to-be of that year. If so, I don't understand why Rena went through it. Why did they watch her, even though she was living so far away? If she was considered somebody who abandoned the village, I could understand. But she didn't fall victim in the end. Maybe she was forgiven because she came back to Hinamizawa? I guess she still knows something I don't. Yeah, and there's a whole lot of things I don't know. Page 24. Satoshi-kun looked terrible. When he went home, he had to mediate a fight between Sotoko and their aunt. He became mentally exhausted. He went to work every day. He became physically exhausted. He no longer communicated with his classmates. He's either slept on his desk or was gone somewhere during lunch break. He used to be really gentle. It was painful to see him suffering like that. On top of that all, he was dealing with the curse of Oyashiro-sama. He must have been completely, totally, and absolutely exhausted. That curse was a form of surveillance by those planning to victimize Satoshi-kun that year. That means that the other victim was in the same situation. Satoshi-kun's aunt had also been watched. Did she notice any presence? What about the others? Did the victims of the previous incidents also experience it? I need to investigate the facts in order to prove the curse on Satoshi-kun was actually just surveillance. Is it surveillance, paranoia, or really the curse? Honestly, I have no fucking idea anymore. I'm just here for the ride. And whatever else. Maybe for the good vibes, wherever those come in.
Hi, 委員長号令。
For a moment, I forgot that the class president was me.
起立。委員長も少し寝不足みたいですね。最近は寝苦しい夜が続きます。でも、しっかりと睡眠はとるように。いいですね、皆さん。
I'm not sure this place can be called a school, because there are so many different age groups. It's like a kindergarten and an elementary school blended together. Since I'd heard already about what this place was like, I didn't feel that uncomfortable. It wasn't too difficult to act like Mion here. As Sis told me, Satoshi-kun looked exhausted. I said hi to him, but he ignored me. Since I knew what he'd been going through, his pain looked apparent to me. Excuse me. I was interested in another person in this classroom. Sotoko. Satoshi-kun's little sister. And there she is, looking dead as I expected her to. She looked as worn out as Satoshi-kun, emotionless like an abandoned doll. Everybody in this room was aware of their circumstances, but no one could do anything for them, so they just acted as though nothing was wrong. Mion will only let me have this one day. If I slacked off even a little bit, today would be over with quickly. I had to figure out what I should do in this limited time. I should probably talk to Satoshi-kun. About what? Anything goes. Cheer him up, sympathize with him, anything will do. More than anything, I just wanted to chat with him. However, Sis had told me, She said Satoshi-kun didn't communicate much with her lately, and had distanced himself from her. I figured I shouldn't talk to him too casually. I wanted to, but maybe it was better to leave him alone. I needed to keep Sis's warnings in mind, but instead I decided to ignore them. Oh ho, here we go? Maybe? I looked for Satoshi-kun during lunch break. He was walking as if looking for a place where he could be alone. I caught him in the hallway.
Satoshi-kun!
He turned around, startled by my voice. His facial expression surprised me. He was scowling, clearly a sign of rejection. But I couldn't hesitate. I'd lose my only chance if I did.
さ、元気?
He gave me a look as if saying, "Do I look fine to you?" I never expected to see an expression like that on his face. I felt like my heart was being torn into pieces. As I looked down, he spoke to me. I felt a little glad, but the next thing he said changed that.
元気だよ。他に用はないなら行くよ。昼休みは一人になりたいんだ。
そっか。バイトが大変なんだよね。疲れてるから一人になって休みたいもんね。今日もなんでしょ？今日はどこで？
Sis had found him several jobs. He worked at a few different places. He was helping out with when unnecessary at any of the shops Mion introduced him to. And as a result, he constantly had to do different tasks in a different environment almost every time. On top of that, he requested high-paying jobs from Mion because he wanted a large sum of money as soon as possible. In other words, he chose to mostly do manual labor. He was exhausted every day because he wasn't that physically strong.
どこでもいいだろう。それに、僕がどこで働くか、ミオンなら知ってることじゃないのかい？
Mion did help him get the job. Yeah, Satoshi-kun didn't look thankful for that opportunity. This wasn't like him at all. It made me feel sad.
そうだよね。ごめん。
要はそれで終わりかい？
He sounded so harsh. Why was he being like that? Would he ever stroke my head again? I couldn't help my tears. They flowed onto my cheeks. Satoshi-kun looked confused for a moment, but then he frowned again.
ごめん。監督がさ、また練習に来てほしいなって言ってたよ。
監督には、もうチームは辞めたいって伝えたはずだよ。戻る気はないし。
たまにはさ、パッと体を動かして汗を流すのもいいと思うんだよ。ほら、スポーツっていろいろと。
興味ない。
I didn't know why he was being so hostile towards me. Why did he hate me so much? I was left bewildered.
なんで？どうして？
バイトで忙しいから、めんどくさい。
違うよ。なんで私がここまで嫌われなくちゃならないの？
自分の胸に聞けばいいじゃないか。
Oh.
自分の胸に？何を？私が何をしたの？わかんないよ、サトシ君。
I couldn't control my emotions any longer. Streaks of tears ran down my cheeks. Alright, bye. Satoshi-kun gave me a hateful glare and walked away without saying another word. I couldn't even stop him. If I tried, he'd hurt me again with another cutting remark. I couldn't bear that. So I just watched him walk away. I wiped my tears and went back to the classroom. I heard somebody crying from inside. What's going on? I looked around the room to see. It was Sadako. I saw her bento box on the floor. I asked one of her classmates what happened, and it seemed that Sadako had bumped into somebody's shoulder when she stood up to go wash the box out. That was all. But Sadako was crying as if afraid she was going to be chided badly. What happened was very minor. She could just pick up the bento box and things would be fine. It looked like the lid came a little loose, but it was definitely fixable, excuse me. She didn't have to cry like that. Yet Sadako started begging through her tears.
助けてよ。助けてよ。
Because of what happened with Satoshi-kun, I couldn't suppress my emotions very well, so instead they exploded. I stormed up to Sadako while elbowing her classmates aside. I grabbed her by the head, and then what the fuck? Yo! What the fuck? What just happened? What just happened? She was shedding tears and shivering. She must be wondering why I did that.
なんであんたがそういう目に遭うか。
No! Sadako cried for her brother's help again, and so I grabbed her head and threw her again. Sadako stumbled and crashed into a desk. The desk fell and the contents of the drawers scattered about. Sadako didn't even stand up. She just crouched and trembled while looking up at me.
あんたがそんなだから。
If you weren't like that, Satoshi wouldn't have had to suffer. Don't you get it? That's what I wanted to say, but I was too angry to utter another word. I picked up a bunch of textbooks from the floor and threw them at her face. Holy shit.
泣きたければ泣けばいい。でもね、泣いたってね、何も解決しない。なんで泣くの？泣けば誰かが助けてくれるから。その助けてくれる人があんたの代わりにどれだけ傷ついてるかなんて想像もつかないでしょ。分かってるの？あんたの罪が。あんたなんかいなければいい。苦しいなら死ね。
My god.
へそでも噛んで勝手に死んじゃえばいい。
Oh my god.
サトシ君まで苦しめるな。一人で苦しんで一人で勝手に死ね。お前なんか死んでしまえ。
Wow. Her desperate cries only increased my irritation.
泣けばいいと思うな。サトシ君にすがれば済むと思うな。甘えるんじゃない。お前さえいなければ。お前さえいなければ。
I kept on throwing things at her. Sadako curled up to protect herself and cried even harder. At that point, a girl with long hair ran up and huddled over her. I knew who that was. Rika Furude, one of Sadako's only friends.
サトコをいじめないでなのです。サトコはかわいそうなのです。いじめてはダメなのです。
かわいそうだから何をしても許されると思ってる？かわいそうだからサトシ君に寄りかかってもいいわけ？甘やかしてるんじゃないよ。こいつがどこまでも甘えてるからサトシ君が辛い思いをしなくちゃならないんだ。ダメ
なのです。サトコをいじめちゃダメなのです。
Rika also became the target of my anger.
私はね、その甘えきったサトコの根性を教育してやってんだよ。邪魔しやがるとあんたの頭から叩き割るよ。
Damn. These Sonozakis, am I right? What the fuck? I grabbed a chair and lifted it over my head. Okay, we're getting into some heavy shit. It wouldn't hurt only a little if I threw this thing at them. Rika tightly closed her eyes and covered Sadako with her body. I didn't care what the consequences would be. I didn't care if I hurt them.
やめて、みーちゃん。
Rena returned to the classroom and shouted at me. Then Satoshi-kun rushed in while pushing Rena aside. Seeming to have grasped the situation immediately, he charged straight to me, or at me. Until my body had hit the locker, I didn't understand what had happened. There was a loud crashing noise. I'd left a dent in it. I crouched there in pain.
サトコ！大丈夫か？サトコ！
にーにー
Sadako pushed Rika aside, jumped at her brother, and started crying again.
どうしたんだよ。どうしてサトコが
私ね、何もしてないのにミオンさんが
どういうことだよ、ミオン。
Damn, really raising the voice here. Satoshi-kun shouted at me while clutching his sister. He looked fierce.
どういうことって。
どこが何をしたよ。僕たちが何をしたよ。なんでいつもいじめられなきゃならないんだよ。どうしてだよ。
He released Sadako and rushed up to me, grabbing me by the neck. Alright.
さっきサトシ君は私に自分の胸に聞けって言ったよね。ならサトコの胸に聞いてみりゃいいじゃない。
何を。
サトシ君だって自分で認めてるんでしょ。サトコがあんたにべったり頼ってるからサトシ君の重荷になってるんでしょ。サトコがもっとしっかりしてればサトシ君がこんなに大変な思いをすることなんてない。そいつが全ての元凶なの。
I don't believe what I said was wrong, but after hearing it, Satoshi-kun went berserk.
こいついい加減なこと言うんじゃない。
Satoshi-kun grabbed my hair and threw me to the wall just like I did to Sadako. However, I wasn't going to back down. Hell yeah, we're a strong-ass woman. I no longer had any control over my emotions at all.
サトシ君だってサトコを甘やかしすぎてるよ。
I don't really think we're keeping up the re-enacted all that
あ
well.
んたがそうやって際限なく甘やかすからそいつはいつまで経ってもあんたにすがってばかりなんだよ。
お前に僕たちの何がわかる。何がわかるってんだよ。父さんや母さんを、そして今度は僕たちか。それがその崎家のやり方なんだろ。どこまでも村の裏切り者をいじめ抜く。そんなに楽しいかよ。弱い者いじめが。
もうやめて。
That was Rena's voice. She stepped in, looking as fierce as a demon.
サトシ君、もうやめてあげて。みーちゃんに悪気はなかった。
As we fucking slammed his sister into the
サトシ君に力になっ
wall.
てあげたくて、その
God.
気持ちがちょっとずれて空回りしちゃっただけ。ね。
Satoshi-kun looked like he wanted to say something back, but he chose not to.
みーちゃんももうやめて。みーちゃんが誰よりもサトシ君のことを心配してるのは知ってる。だけれど、こんなやり方はそれの解決にはならない。そんなのちょっと落ち着いて考えればわかることだよね。
Since Satoshi-kun didn't say anything, I kept quiet too.
ほら、さとこちゃんもお弁当箱を落としたくらいで泣くことはないよ。ね？落ち着いた？さとこ、僕がお弁当箱を拾ってあげますよ。
Rika started picking up the bento box while its owner continued to cry.
みんな、片付けを手伝ってくれる？もうすぐ先生がカレー菜園から戻ってくる頃だよ。これでもう喧嘩は終わったから、先生には余計なことは言わない。いいね。
The classmates looked at each other and nodded, and then started picking up the stuff on the floor. And that was that, I guess.
はい。サトシ君もみーちゃんも仲直りの握手。ほら。
ごめん。こんなつもりじゃなかったのに。
Tears started to roll down my cheeks again.
僕も悪かった。僕たちがいじめられてるのは大人の都合でごめん。
さあ、みーちゃんは次にさとこちゃんに謝る。はい。
I was fine with apologizing to Satoshi-kun, but I didn't want to apologize to her. But the situation wouldn't be settled otherwise, so I reluctantly apologized. Sadako nodded, looking discouraged. After that, Rena let me go. My head ached, so I held it with both hands. What was that? What did I do? I didn't want to use this precious time to fight. Sis had warned me. She told me that I shouldn't talk to Satoshi-kun just like that. What did I come here for? I shouldn't have come here if I knew this was going to happen. Stupid, you're stupid, Shion. I was overcome by emotions because I was so worried about Satoshi-kun. When did things go wrong? Were they wrong from the beginning? I got into a fight with Satoshi-kun. This was totally the opposite of what I wanted. I regretted it. I hated myself for it. I couldn't blame myself enough. My world had been torn apart. I wished the sky would fall and kill me. Yeah, let's not hope for weird things such as that. That wouldn't be all that great. Alright, I think we'll end the episode here. I think this is an okay to end this episode. Wow. Alright, man, time's just going by. Incredible. Alright, I guess next time we'll get Mion up to speed on what happened there. Yeah, really, I was really not expecting all that to happen. I thought it was gonna be like a, alright, we're going undercover recon sort of shit, but no, we fucking smashed Sadako into the wall and threw shit at her, and we picked up a chair. We were gonna smash it down on Rika. Oh my gosh. What a great time. Thank you all for watching this wacky episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. I guess I'll see y'all in the next one. Hopefully things remain a little wild here. I'm all for it.